Jacob was a poor young man who lived in a small countryside village in England. His life was full of struggle. Every morning, he worked in the fields or helped people in the market just to earn a little money for food. Even though he had very little, Jacob had a kind heart and always helped others when he could. One day, while selling vegetables at the market, he met a beautiful young woman named Avery. She often came to buy fruits for her sick mother. Avery was polite, gentle, and always smiled kindly. Jacob liked her from the very first day. Over time, they started meeting more often. They would sit by the river in the evening, talking about life and dreams. Jacob told her that one day he wanted to build a small house where they could live happily together. Avery laughed and said she wanted the same. Slowly, their friendship turned into love. They both cared deeply for each other and supported one another during hard times. But one day, Avery fell very sick. She became weak and pale. Jacob took her to the doctor in town. After some tests, the doctor told them that Avery's liver was badly damaged. She needed a transplant, or she would not survive. Avery cried, knowing her poor family could not afford the surgery. Jacob's heart broke seeing her pain. Without telling her, he decided to donate his liver. The doctor warned him that it was very risky, but Jacob didn't care. He only wanted Avery to live. After the operation, Avery's life was saved, but Jacob didn't survive. When Avery woke up and learned the truth, she cried endlessly. She realized Jacob's love was pure and selfless. His sacrifice proved that true love means giving everything, even life itself. After the doctor told Avery about her liver failure, her world fell apart. She sat silently in the hospital room, staring at the floor, too weak to speak. Jacob held her hand tightly, whispering, "You'll be fine. I'm with you." But inside, he was breaking. He spent his nights awake, thinking how to save her when there was no money and no donor willing to help. Avery's health grew worse each day. She could no longer walk to the market or laugh like before. Jacob tried to hide his tears, but every time he looked at her pale face, his heart hurt more. The doctor said she had only a few weeks left if nothing was done. Avery smiled faintly and said, "Maybe it's my time, Jacob. Don't cry." But Jacob couldn't accept losing her. One evening, when the hospital lights were dim, Jacob stood outside, looking at the stars. He whispered to himself, "If I could give her my life, I would." That night, he met the doctor secretly. "Can I donate part of my liver?" he asked. The doctor looked surprised. "It's risky. You might not survive." Jacob smiled sadly and said, "If she lives, that's enough for me." The next morning, he signed the papers quietly. He didn't tell Avery. He wanted her to wake up and smile again without knowing what he had done. The surgery took long hours. Avery's operation was successful, but Jacob's body became too weak to recover. When Avery woke up days later, she felt stronger but didn't see Jacob anywhere. The doctor came with tears in his eyes and handed her a letter. It said only one line, "My love will live inside you." Avery pressed the letter to her heart and cried, realizing his love had truly become part of her life. Avery stayed in the hospital for many days after Jacob's death. Her body was recovering, but her soul was broken. She held his letter every night, reading those same few words again and again, "My love will live inside you." The words gave her both pain and peace. Sometimes she smiled through tears, feeling as if Jacob was still with her, watching over her. When Avery finally returned home, everything reminded her of him: the small market where he sold vegetables, the wooden bridge where they used to talk for hours, and the riverside where he once promised her a happy life. Each place felt empty now. The village people tried to comfort her, but she preferred silence. She often sat near the river at sunset, whispering Jacob's name, feeling the breeze as if it were his touch. One evening, the doctor who had done the surgery visited her house. He handed her a small sealed envelope and said softly, "Jacob gave me this before the operation. He wanted you to have it after he was gone." Avery's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a short letter written in Jacob's shaky handwriting. It read, "Avery, if I'm not there when you open this, don't be sad. You gave meaning to my life. Promise me one thing, live happily. Help others. And when you look at the sky, remember I'll be somewhere in those stars, smiling at you." Avery cried for hours that night. But something inside her heart changed. She realized Jacob didn't want her to live in sorrow. He wanted her to continue his kindness, to spread love the way he did. From the next morning, Avery decided to live not for herself, but for Jacob. His love had not ended, it had simply taken a new form inside her heart. A few weeks later, Avery left the hospital completely healed, but she was no longer the same person. Jacob's letter had changed her. His words, "help others, live happily," kept echoing in her mind. She made a silent promise at his grave. "Jacob, I'll live the way you wanted. I'll keep your love alive through kindness." Avery began working again, but this time, not for herself. She spent her mornings helping old villagers, fixing clothes for free and giving food to poor children. People noticed a new light in her eyes, gentle yet strong. Everyone in the village respected her, not just because she survived, but because she had learned to give love the way Jacob once did. Every evening, she visited Jacob's grave near the river. She brought fresh flowers and talked to him softly. "I met a hungry child today," she would say. "I gave him food in your name." Sometimes the wind would blow gently, and she felt as if Jacob was answering her through the breeze. Months passed, and Avery started organizing small gatherings for poor families. She told them about kindness, sacrifice, and the meaning of true love. People cried listening to her story. Many said Jacob's spirit lived through her, through every good deed she did. One cold winter night, Avery stood by the river where they once dreamed together. The sky was full of stars, and she looked up, smiling. "You're there, aren't you, Jacob?" she whispered. A soft gust of wind touched her face, and she felt warmth in her heart. For the first time, Avery didn't feel alone. She knew Jacob was gone, but his soul surrounded her, guiding her every step. Their love had become something eternal, not seen, but deeply felt in every breath she took. Months passed peacefully as Avery continued her mission of kindness. The once quiet village had changed. People had started helping each other, inspired by her story. Every heart carried a little of Jacob's love, passed through Avery's gentle hands. But even with all the smiles she brought to others, the nights were still heavy for her. When everything became quiet, she missed Jacob more than ever. One evening, Avery walked to the riverside carrying flowers for his grave. The sun had already set, and a soft fog covered the water. As she placed the flowers, she closed her eyes and whispered, "Jacob, I hope you're proud of me." Suddenly, she heard a faint sound, like someone whispering her name. She opened her eyes quickly, but no one was there. Only the wind moved through the trees. Her heart raced, but she felt no fear, only warmth. From that night onward, strange but peaceful things began happening. Each morning, fresh wildflowers appeared on Jacob's grave, though Avery hadn't placed them. The villagers noticed too. They said it was a miracle, a sign that Jacob's soul was still around. Avery didn't speak much about it, but deep inside, she felt his presence growing stronger. One day, while helping an old woman fix her roof, Avery slipped and almost fell from the ladder. but something invisible seemed to hold her steady. The woman gasped and said, "Child, it's like someone caught you." Avery smiled with tears in her eyes and whispered, "I know who it was." That night, standing by the river again, she softly said, "Jacob, you're still here." The wind blew gently, carrying the scent of roses, Jacob's favorite flower. Avery smiled through her tears. She finally understood love so pure never truly dies. It lingers unseen, like a whisper in the wind, always by her side. After the night when Avery felt Jacob's whisper by the river, her life slowly began to change again. The villagers started to notice strange yet peaceful happenings around her. Wherever she went, the air felt lighter, the wind softer, and even sick people began to heal faster when she visited them. People began saying, "Jacob's spirit walks with her." But Avery never claimed anything. She only smiled gently and said, "Love can't be seen, but it can be felt." One morning, while Avery was planting flowers around Jacob's grave, she noticed something unusual. The earth beneath the grave glowed faintly in the sunlight, forming a heart-shaped pattern made from blooming red roses. She hadn't planted them, yet they grew there overnight. The villagers gathered around in silence, whispering prayers. Some called it a miracle, others called it eternal love. For Avery, it was a message, a sign that Jacob was still protecting her. That evening, as the sky turned golden, Avery walked by the river and spoke softly, "I feel you here, Jacob." A gentle breeze brushed against her face, carrying a familiar scent, the smell of fresh bread, just like the bakery where Jacob once worked. Tears filled her eyes, but she smiled through them. Over time, Avery became known throughout nearby villages. People traveled from far away to meet the woman whose lover had given his life for her and whose spirit never left her side. Avery told them all, love doesn't end with death. It only changes its form. Late one night, she sat by the window, watching the candlelight flicker. For a brief moment, she saw a shadow outside, a man standing near the river, smiling softly. She didn't move or speak, she only whispered, "Good night, Jacob." The shadow faded with the wind, leaving peace in her heart. Years passed, and Avery grew older. Her hair turned silver, but her eyes still carried the same warmth that once captured Jacob's heart. The villagers loved her dearly and often called her the woman of eternal love. Children brought her flowers, and travelers came to hear her story. Yet, every night, when the world was silent, Avery still spoke to the wind, the same way she once spoke to Jacob. She lived a peaceful life, helping others until her hands grew too weak to sow or plant. One cold winter evening, she sat by the fire, holding Jacob's letter. Its edges were worn, but the words still clear, "Promise me you will live your life fully." She smiled faintly and whispered, "I kept my promise, Jacob." That night, Avery felt unusually calm. She walked slowly to the riverside, where their love had once bloomed. The stars reflected beautifully on the water, and the wind carried a sweet, familiar scent of roses and fresh bread. "Jacob," she said softly, "I'm tired now, but I'm not afraid." As she sat near his grave, the wind grew stronger, circling around her like a warm embrace. She heard his voice, clear and gentle, whispering, "I've been waiting, Avery." Tears rolled down her cheeks, not from sadness, but peace. The villagers later found her there at sunrise, her face smiling, a single red rose resting in her hand. That same morning, something magical happened. The heart-shaped roses on Jacob's grave bloomed brighter than ever before, glowing under the morning light. People said it was a sign two souls reunited beyond life. From that day on, Every breeze that passed through the village carried the scent of roses. And those who walked by the river often felt a soft whisper in the air, a reminder that true love, like Jacob and Avery's, never dies. It only finds a new home in eternity. The story of Jacob and Avery became a timeless tale in their small English village, a story whispered from one generation to the next. People spoke of the poor man who gave his life for love, and the woman who kept his memory alive through kindness. Their love was not written in wealth or grand gestures, but in sacrifice, patience, and faith that went beyond death itself. Every corner of the village still carried their memory. The old market where they first met, the river where they dreamed of a future, and the grave where red roses bloomed endlessly, all became sacred places of love. When the wind passed through the trees, villagers said it was Jacob greeting Avery once more. And when the flowers opened each morning, they believed it was Avery smiling from beyond. Avery's name became a symbol of kindness. Her life proved that even after losing everything, love can rebuild what pain destroys. And Jacob's sacrifice showed that real love asks for nothing in return. It only gives, even when it costs everything. Together, they taught the world that love doesn't end with a heartbeat. It continues as a whisper, a memory, a light that never fades. Years later, a small stone plaque was placed near the river. It read, "Here lived Jacob and Avery, two souls, one heart." Travelers still come to see it, leaving flowers and silent prayers. Some say when the night is quiet, you can hear soft laughter near the water, like two voices meeting again. Their love became more than a story. It became a feeling, floating forever in the air of that peaceful countryside. For those who believe, Jacob and Avery's hearts still beat together, reminding the world that true love never dies. It simply finds a new way to live. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your one click helps us bring more heart-touching stories of love and sacrifice. Comment, "True love never dies," if you believe in forever.